Sociology is the study of social behavior at the micro level in our own social groups, as well as how societies are organized at the macro level across institutions and relationships around the world. We look for patterns in behavior, as well as causes and consequences of social change and solutions to social problems.
Hey, I'm Ben Cushing. I'm a faculty member at Cascade Campus. To me, sociology is a series of questions and debates that people have been engaged in for a century and a half. Questions like, how did we come to be this way? How did we come to live the lives that we're currently living, embedded in the systems that we're currently embedded within? And maybe most importantly, how do we begin to transform those systems to make the world better?
Sociology is a science that uses scientific principles to try to understand why people do the things that they do. We try to understand large social patterns, but also kind of things that impact individual lives. And we follow the same principles of science that they do in biology and physics and astronomy and all those other sciences.
How do I define sociology? So sociology for me really comes together with the concept of the sociological imagination. So when I'm teaching sociology, it's really important to me that students understand or can begin to recognize the role of the social environment on their lives and other people's lives, and what that means. So we spend a lot of time trying to understand why people do what they do, even why I do what I do, right? And so sociology offers a perspective that brings into account the influence of these social forces, these things outside of our control. And also helps us to pay attention to what historical era we live in. So our lives are very different than our grandparents' lives and so on.
Sociology is the scientific study of society, from the big picture macro organizations and institutions to our close-up micro interactions in small groups. Sociology explores how social forces out there shape our own lives, but also vice versa.
Hi there. I am here to answer questions about sociology today. I am Jerry Lovelace. First question is, how do you define sociology? Sociology is the scientific study of human behavior in society. So it's science, love science. Science is great. We're not just making stuff up. We're using scientific methods, but also what we're analyzing is human behavior in society. So not just as an individualistic approach of human behavior, it's more about how humans are connected to the larger social structure through groups, organizations, institutions, etc. And that's what I find fascinating. So if you want to understand sort of why people do what they do, if you want to understand why things are the way they are, chances are you want to take sociology, because it analyzes from the macro to the meso to the micro and how it all interrelates and combines. It's complex. Humans are complex. And sociology gets into all of those complexities, which is really nice. From, like I said, the macro to the micro, and in the middle, the meso, right?
My own work is focused on how to solve social problems with the power of sociology and applied learning. I've focused on environmental and social justice issues and have found ways to amplify our collective impact through regional networks, nonprofits, and the United Nations.
Sociology has impacted my life outside of the classroom in a whole host of different ways. I mean, one thing that comes to mind is my participation in a lot of different social movements, from the global justice movement and indigenous solidarity work to more recently the labor movement. It's also been really helpful in informing my work in a recent podcast project. I've been developing a podcast called Tracing the Roots of the Climate Crisis, which explores the root causes of climate change, including cultural beliefs, economic systems, and the legacies of colonialism, imperialism, and slavery.
A lot of my work is on the issue of hate crimes. I've done a lot of work in trying to understand why people commit hate crimes, how we can prevent them, how communities respond to them. So one of the things I do outside of the classroom is I work with the state of Oregon on our bias crime law, getting people to report bias crimes and providing the necessary support for victims of bias crime, and also looking at how those people who commit those crimes go through kind of a life course, sometimes in prison, sometimes in hate groups, and how we bring them out of the world of hate.
So I think students should take sociology courses because it's sort of this thing that once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's a perspective that becomes part of how you see the world. It becomes a filter in some respects. I had students who joked years ago saying, now I can't go to a movie without having some kind of sociological perspective, and I can't have an argument or even a conversation with another person without sort of micro-analyzing what's happening in that conversation. I can't see an advertisement. I can't go shopping. I can't celebrate a holiday. And so once you kind of turn on the sociology point of view, it becomes very difficult to turn off, which I actually think is a good thing. Jury's out, of course. Some students probably won't respect it or not respect it, but won't appreciate it. So I would say that it becomes very relevant to everyone in their daily lives, and it doesn't matter what it is that you do. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what your career choices are, anything. I think that it's very relevant to everybody's lives, and that's what makes it so powerful, but also so relevant, so useful. In many ways, we use sociology to understand how it is that we function or how it is that we exist in the social world. And we can spend a lot of time in confusion. We can spend a lot of time just sort of blaming ourselves or blaming others without understanding the influence of the larger social environment and the historical era on us and our own experiences. And so sociology courses help in a lot of respects students to kind of get at that broader perspective, and then to be able to step away or more objectively look at their own lives and to maybe not feel so bad or so badly about the things that they, really do feel like they have very little control over, because it's true. You actually don't have a lot of control over many of those things. At the same time, and my students will recognize this phrase, I'll say, but you can't throw in the towel, right? You can't just give up. That sociology also provides a perspective around how to navigate social forces, how to make better decisions, how to work with others to change these social structures that in many ways can be very limiting.
My doctoral research, called Selling Protest in the News, explored how regular people, left, right, and in between, interact with news media to spread their protest messages. Along with my current work tracking how the news frames the latest global movements, I advise and consult for organizations looking to adapt in these times of unprecedented change.
I think all the time, anytime you want to understand something, you're applying sociological thought. I feel, at least myself, because, you get caught up in your own ways of thinking, but sociology actually provides all these different perspectives and all these different ways to analyze social phenomena, just meaning, events that happen with people, So I apply sociological training all the time, and sometimes you got to turn it off. You got to be like, all right, I don't want to, analyze things all the time, but when you want to understand why things are the way they are, you want to understand structures, then you want to, apply your sociological thought. And a lot of times it's through media literacy for myself. So, reading the news, checking the news, I'm always thinking about different sociological perspectives and applying different theories to sort of, well, why are these news organizations reporting what they're reporting the way they are, right? And what's their potential, outcomes that they want to see or influences that they want to project and get people to sort of buy into or pay attention to. So anyway, all the time. So anytime you're interacting with people, anytime you are teaching, of course, right? Anytime you are riding your bike down the street wondering why things are the way they are, you can always apply sociological thought outside of the classroom. Okay.
I hope that these lessons can help students too. My teaching philosophy is educate, empower, engage. I know it's hard to learn about social problems. It can be hard to teach about them too. But my students and I have discovered that digging into social issues can also uncover pathways to solutions. We can use sociological tools to help unpack the root causes of social issues and learn about the many ways that people are making a difference all around the world. Knowledge is power, and sociology can help us all make a difference in our own lives and in our communities.
To me, studying sociology has been an incredibly deep process of personal growth. I think that one thing that thinking in terms of systems can offer us is a bit of empathy toward ourselves and empathy toward others. It also gives us the tools, I think, to think about system change, which is necessary for any of the kind of broader social change that people might be interested in.
You know, sociology gives you some really good tools. The world is super confusing. There's a lot of complexity to it, and sociology gives you some of the intellectual tools to be able to make sense of it, but it also gives you things that are practical in the work world. How to understand diversity, how to manage changing landscapes, how to find ways of helping people in communities, and be able to kind of take the research that's been done and apply it to the world to make the world a better place. And so I think it's something that really empowers students to make a big impact on the world.
One of the things I've always loved about sociology is that it's this never-ending quest. One of my values is continuous learning, right? I just want to constantly, I'm like a sponge. I go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And I've spent my entire adult life doing this, and maybe my childhood, I don't really know. So when I think about what I was first interested in when I started with sociology, it was environmentalism and environmental movements and the influence of the natural environment on the way that humans lived and vice versa. So that interactive, dynamic relationship between humans and the environment. And that led me to environmental justice. And I got very interested in environmental racism, environmental justice, which then led me to more interest in social justice in general. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about the position of women in society, feminism, and thinking a lot about classism, social class, and the inequality of opportunity that really exists around social class. And then over time, I got interested in things around leadership. And some of this has to do with my own position at PCC in particular changing. So I was in a leadership role for a number of years. And so I was really interested in understanding leadership and the sociology of leadership and organizations and organizational development. So I spent some time, kind of diving into that. And now I'm interested in coaching, because I think that when students, and academic coaching in particular, when students are interested in trying to navigate what I was describing as sociological imagination, using that perspective, trying to navigate the social forces in the world, that they, it's helpful to have some perspective and some tools. And that coaching could be a tool for helping people to become more independent thinkers and have more self-initiative.
Whether you're in college to figure things out, to gain new skills, or to just find new opportunity, there is no better subject than sociology to put things in perspective. Did you know that Dr. Martin Luther King and President Ronald Reagan, as well as Michelle Obama, were sociology majors? If you're thinking about law or medical school, a business degree, a big Instagram following, or changing the world, sociology can be your best path to learning success.
Okay. The third question is, why should students take sociology classes? And I sort of alluded to this before, because if you want to, understand the complexities of human behavior at all levels, the individual, but also group, organization, and institutional levels, and societal levels, then you should take sociology. I think it benefits everybody. It doesn't matter what career you choose. Everybody benefits from taking a sociology class in some way, shape, or form. And it's always beneficial for working with people, understanding human behavior, but also how that human behavior of your coworkers, of your employees, of your employers operates. So anyway, and why they do what they do, right? So that's the big question. That's what we're always striving to answer. And, always looking for theories, but also methods and the data to support these claims. And it's really, really fascinating. So I feel like I said before, everybody can benefit from sociology courses, and you should take one. And if you choose to, make it your major, then you, especially later on in your advanced undergraduate or graduate degrees, you can choose the direction you want to take yourself. What are you interested in about human behavior? What do you want to study? and you can narrow your focus to different fields and subject areas and really delve deep into whatever that social phenomena is that you want to get really, really in-depth analyses and understandings of. So